And we're back. We're on the road again. Let a few more people filter in here before we really get this thing going. Appreciate you guys taking time out on your Monday night to come hang out with me and ask great questions like you always do over here on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and on Facebook. We'll get into the Vanguard announcement, all the fun stuff from today and this past weekend today on the live. Broadcasting from the hotel room again. We'll see how the Wi-Fi is here. I don't know that it's going to be great, but we are going to give it a go. So, just got back. Was really blessed. Was able to come out tonight and speak at an event here in Oklahoma. One of our mastermind members, fantastic couple, actually, not just one, but a couple that's in our group, put the event on tonight, which was really, really well done. Location was very nice, was very elegant, very Christmassy. If you guys are ready for price appreciation, I'll give you all a little story. So, aside from the wonderful event tonight, I had an interaction that was interesting to me on Twitter. So you guys know that I have the public bet with Scams Daddy is his actual name over there on Twitter, and he changed his profile picture on Twitter to the Grinch, which I found very fitting. Um, anyway, so I told him I liked his profile picture, and he often talks about why XRP isn't going to be the thing and why Bitcoin's so great. Which I get it. There's a lot of people that feel that way, and he actually is very intelligent. It's actually eerily intelligent how sharp he is with his understanding about XRP. Like he's spent a lot of time understanding XRP, so that's why it's difficult for me to believe that he doesn't have a pretty significant allocation for himself. But anyway, he changed his profile pic to the Grinch, and I asked him if he was going to have a change of heart this Christmas. And what he told me was he's just playing his part over there on Twitter. So the interesting response to my question, um, there's lots of characters in this saga, and so for him to say that was just things that make you go, hmm. Anyway, wanted to start. Again, the Christmas theme at the event tonight just was what kind of caught my attention and made me think of that. Um, Again, hopefully you guys are excited. Hopefully you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. This is our first live since Thanksgiving, so hopefully you got to spend some wonderful time with your families and make great memories. Hopefully, you were able to get some of that good food and take a nice nap and maybe watch the football game. I know that's a lot of people's way that they spend Thanksgiving. Go Cowboys! I didn't even watch the game. I don't know if they won or not, but they always play on Thanksgiving. I'm a fair weather fan. Okay, give me a break. I live in Dallas. I've grown up there my whole life, but if they're doing well, then I'll watch. But outside of that, since Jerry's on the team, it just hasn't been. It's been a little lackluster. But we won't get into the football because I'm sure there's plenty of people that have opinions on that. We'll stay focused on the crypto because that's what you guys come on here for. Um, so, um, a lot of very interesting things happening in the market. 21 shares ETF was delayed. I don't know if it was a fumble on their S1 or some of the other filings and why it's been delayed. But we did see a huge announcement today from Vanguard. I've been speculating for probably 6-7 months now, since they first started talking about the ETFs, that we would see Vanguard play a role along with BlackRock and potentially Fidelity. Fidelity, obviously, they've allowed their advisors to allow their clients to participate in all of the ETFs up to this point, including the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and everything else that's been listed. Vanguard has been standoff. They've not allowed any of their $10 trillion worth of assets that they manage to participate in any capacity in any crypto products. And as of tomorrow, that's going to be huge inflows that move into these ETFs, these spot ETFs, all four. And I think there may even be more than that. But Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, and XRP for sure will all be available to the advisors and their clients at Vanguard tomorrow. Big Tuesday here in December. What a way to start off the month. We've been talking about, this being the month for a long time, and it's looking very juicy with everything that is culminating here to potentially push prices substantially higher for XRP in particular this month. Something else that I've talked about before, but I think has been glossed over. The OCC approved banks' ability to hold crypto to be able to pay fees for settling on these networks. That's a big deal. They can hold crypto on their balance sheet now, and in a regulated way for a regulated reason to participate, settle transactions on these networks. So they can have a treasury or a large position of certain assets to be able to cover those costs. And it considers an asset on their balance sheets. So um, XRP does cost a little bit of XRP every single time a transaction sent. It's like 0.00000012 XRP or something. It's very small, less than a penny to send $1 million. Okay. But that's still a gas fee, and you do need the token in order to be able to cover those costs. So now you could see, institutions, I don't want to say hoarding XRP, but holding large amounts of XRP to be able to make sure that they have some. Um, this person's asked if I'm Zach Rector's daddy. I am not Zach Rector's daddy. Zach's a good guy. He's out there. He's another channel over here that talks about XRP a lot. So anyway, back to this, the deal at hand. It seems to me like all of the things are in place for everything that I've been talking about for 18 months here. I put out my domino theory back in March of 2024, March of 2024, excuse me, corrected myself. It hasn't been 2 years. It's only been 18 months. But I put that video out and we talked about, the reverse carry trade unwinding, the flooding of US treasuries onto the market, us passing stablecoin regulation to be able to soak up those treasuries, the ETFs going live, the destabilization, which, Bitcoin's not already unstable, but the destabilization of Tether because of some means, either sanctions or they don't comply with the stablecoin bill, which they don't. We also got news today that they are going to figure out what it's going to look like for a cryptocurrency backed stablecoin here in the US. Their regulators are starting to look at that now. I've postured for a long time that XRP in particular would become a tier one asset and be used to back stablecoins potentially, and other, be a reserve asset effectively. I think that that's a great possibility. All that takes is one announcement by the BIS, and it is game over. People will be clamoring for XRP to be able to use it if it becomes a reserve asset. I think that you're going to see gold, oil, and XRP used to back the new financial system, or, that's probably a weird way to put that. There's a lot of people out there to talk about a quantum financial system and a bunch of crazy stuff. This is just a transition from the way that things look today, that's going to migrate to something that has real tangible backing, if it's gold or oil. We're also about to see the dinar get revalued. Huge deal in the Middle East. And they've also um, allowed Ripple to operate at scale. Just so happens at the same time there in the UAE. We also saw Ripple just yesterday evening get the announcement from Singapore that they are fully regulated to be able to operate in their full capacity there in that jurisdiction. So, as far as I'm aware, that's global coverage for Ripple and the use of XRP if there's enough liquidity in the asset. And the only way that that's going to happen is a huge rotation. Okay. This cycle has been, different than other cycles. We saw Bitcoin at an all-time high before the halving. That's never happened before. So no matter what you say, this time is different. And they are going to need to roll a lot of that liquidity into XRP. There are going to be a sell-off in other assets in order to be able to move enough liquidity and demand toward XRP to be able to push it to the prices where it can be used. I think a lot of that demand is going to come from the Bitcoin ETFs. This person says the dirham, not the dinar. You're correct. Excuse me. So the dirham The last time I was in Dubai, this was February of 24. So actually, right before I put out the domino theory, coincidentally, when we met with Mastercard, um, I used some dirham while I was over there. I had to convert my cash for dirham. So you are correct. There in the UAE it is dirham. Um, but there is going to be a reevaluation of that, and they're going to back it with oil, which is fantastic. We've seen Russia already back their currency with gold, and I think that that's going to become the norm. I think that they are going to use those two commodities alongside XRP after it's starting to be used at scale and a much higher price and gets the designation as a tier one asset to back currencies. Canada doesn't have any gold. They've got a lot of oil in the ground. They've got a lot of gold in the ground. So maybe they tokenize, the commodities that are still in the ground. Um, I think that there's a lot of different ways that they could go about this. They obviously there was something out that came out the other day that the UAE found what was it? It was like 11,000 tons of gold somehow that just wasn't there. I, there's stuff like that that happens all the time, which is very weird to me. But we haven't seen. I do think that we're going to see gold prices drop. We've seen silver rise to where are we at? Around $58 per ounce at this point. And if you're actually buying it, the spot price plus the premium is around $79 or $80 an ounce at this point. Both of these, I know people are telling you they're going to go substantially higher. I am going to be in the bear camp on those. I think with the imminent unwind of the reverse carry trade, we're going to see them move lower. I think that we're in for a 50% haircut on gold for sure. Silver could stay where it's at or even continue to rise a little bit, even in the environment that we're going into. The reason for that is when you look at the gold to silver ratio, traditionally over time it's been 40 to 1. Biblically, it's like 14 to 1 or 8 to 1. Actually, it's 14 to 1 biblically. And then if you want to look at how much is actually in the ground and could be mined, it would be about 8 to 1 if you valued it that way. So the gold to silver ratio has been way out of whack for an extended period of time because they've suppressed silver with, spoofing the market, JP Morgan holding that down. Now that we've seen the rise to where it's at, we're still at 80 to 1. I think that that's absolutely going to revert to the mean, and potentially even surpass the mean. We normally see emotional exuberance on silver after gold's risen. So I think you could still see silver to $100, but that's kind of my cap on silver. Versus there's a lot of people touting that it's going to go much higher than that. I don't think that it's economically feasible for its use case in today's economy to rise much further than that. The cost of goods would be substantially higher. They'd have to change, a lot of what's in electronics today to something else, which could happen absolutely, and maybe silver becomes just a monetary metal. But there's a lot of industrial applications for silver at this point because of its conductivity and a lot of the other properties that it has. So unless we get graphene up and going to scale, it's going to be difficult to replace silver in the economy. I don't know if you guys get on here for this or not. I talk a lot about digital assets, but I'm into macro. I really do enjoy macroeconomics. And that is where the majority of my thesis comes from for the domino theory and how this is going to play out and what I spend the majority of my time on. This person says micro. we can narrow down if you want me to. Um, anyway, I'll quit rambling. You guys, appreciate you taking time out of your money to come hang out with me on the live here again over here on TikTok, X, YouTube, and Facebook. I don't ever say this enough. If you wouldn't mind, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share this with somebody if you think it's cool and you get value from it. This person asked, "Do I sell merch?" No, I do not sell merch. I have actual companies where we provide real services for people. Um, some people in the mastermind make merch every once in a while, and we do share that with the community, but it's nothing that I monetize or sell. Um, it's not really my game. I would rather create actual solutions and build things that people need. Um, and it's not even that selling merch is a bad thing. It is the amount of time and effort and resources that goes into that I could be utilizing on stuff that has higher leverage that provides more value for people because it you know when you're looking at things objectively and you're looking at all the opportunities that you want to pick the ones that have the highest value for other people and the highest leverage. Merch is just kind of on the low end of that spectrum. But there's a lot of cool people that do hustle and do a good job selling their merch, and I don't discount it or poo-poo on anybody. It's just not something that I think is worth our time. All right, we got Rigador. They say Jake Stradamus. I know you're not a big fan of exchanges, but do you think I Trust Capital is okay? Place to keep XRP for now. I don't have enough to join DWP yet. Thanks for everything that you do. There's a lot of good people out there that offer an IRA product. We absolutely also do that at Digital Wealth Partners. We're about to have a way to generate additional returns and compound your returns on your XRP inside of your IRA that we're going to be rolling out here in December. So if you do have your XRP with us, you'll be able to generate additional cash and compound your XRP inside of that IRA. So pretty excited about that offering. I will say, some of the other players in the space don't necessarily like me or us. And I get that, right? Like if we're taking assets off their platform or our clients are moving them, I could understand why they would be apprehensive to that. They do drag their feet on moving assets over. And again, that's not just them, that's pretty much anybody when you move an IRA or capital from one party to another. People want to hold on to things as long as they can, and they tend to drag their feet on stuff. So, again, not poo-pooing anybody, just talking about how things actually are. And I trust Bitcoin IRA. There's a lot of good people that do provide a good product out there for holding digital assets inside of an IRA. I think we do it a little bit better, but I'm also very biased. So take it with a grain of salt. This person's just laughing. Every once in a while, you click on one and it comes up. All right, we got another super chat here. We've got OMG Tracer. They say, Jake, Abs referred to you as the modern day Michael Burry. I appreciate that. I like Abs and Johnny. Good evening, crypto. They were nice enough to have me on the other day. Shout out to them. Shout out to them and everything that they're doing over there with Coach JV. Appreciate those guys. He says, who would you pick to play yourself in a movie like The Big Short? Any thoughts on a name? I don't know. I think that it's going to be interesting to watch this play out. And I'm not naive, right? Like I have made a pretty significant call here, and when I'm right, my life is going to change. I don't think I'm anybody special, just a regular dude, just like everybody else. I just happen to see things a little sooner than other people. And so, and I have the cojones to come out here and talk about it in public and make a bet and stand on it and, back it up with my opinion and also facts that I continue to be right about. But as far as a movie goes, you know, people said I look like Jacob Black in Twilight. So Taylor Lautner might be a good one. I don't get that one as often as I get the basketball player nowadays. I can't think of that gentleman's name. This person says, "Are you optimistic about this month?" I am extremely optimistic about this month. Like extremely optimistic. So take that again as you will. Again, my bet was by the end of the year on things. We got 30 days left for that, bet to come to life and see what happens. But like I talked about before, Scams moving over to the Grinch for his. Scams is the guy I have the bet with for people just now joining us. To move his profile picture to the Grinch, it'd be interesting if the Grinch gave back this Christmas. And again, our whole bet, the premise of it, again, whether I win or lose, I really don't care. The whole benefit of that bet was to make sure that the people that he had taken other bets with and won and taken their XRP, they're going to get their XRP back. Either it's me or him that pays them back based on who wins or loses our bet. So we'll just have to see how all that plays out. But I just, again, found it very interesting that he had changed his profile picture to the Grinch. The Grinch. Um, Honest Aim, good to see you, brother. Hope you guys are doing well, you and your wife. He says, Mr. Legacy, hi to the tea lady. Remember to open the bottle of Driftless Glen when XRP hits $10. We'll be opening ours too. FYI, I completed the super chat at 9:01 tonight as you started the program. Blessings. You're on it tonight, my man. Appreciate you. Blake Griffin. There you go. Apparently, that's what everybody says I look like. I'm the Blake Griffin of crypto. I'll take it. That's a good compliment. He's a good looking dude. This person said the disclaimer. I'll get to the disclaimer in a second. I definitely need to do it. All right. So yeah, definitely. We'll be celebrating. I don't think it's going to stop at $10. I think it's going to run right past $10 when XRP gets going. So we will pop a bottle at $10. I've also got a bottle of wine that's an XRP bottle of wine, and maybe we'll have a few drinks when XRP goes. I think a lot of people are going to be really happy this holiday. I'm excited for you guys. We got Alan. He says, when XRP hits price appreciation, how will the average person be able to sell it? Because it's tied. Because if you tried to sell a large amount on an exchange like Coinbase, they would just freeze your assets. What's the best way to sell? An OTC desk, Alan. That would be the best way to sell. Hopefully, you've already structured these relationships prior to price appreciation. I know that that's difficult if you're not buying at least $250,000 a clip, because that is what's required on these OTC desks at this point. So we can absolutely make recommendations and referrals. If you want to utilize Digital Wealth Partners to sell your XRP, you absolutely can. It's 20 basis points with no spread is the cost at Digital Wealth Partners. It's the cheapest that I'm aware of out there. Everybody else charges at least some spread. The lowest I've seen for fees on over $1 million is like 10 to 15 basis points, but the spread's still there. So what is a spread? A spread is the exchange or the OTC desk will sell it at a slightly higher price to you than what the actual market price is. And when you sell it, they will basically buy it back and exchange you the cash at a slightly lower price than market price. And that is the spread that they make on that transaction, plus whatever fee they're charging for the transaction as well. We are really the only mechanism that exists today that's in alignment with holding your assets over the long term. So we charge AUM fees. We make more money if you hold your assets and they go up in value. I always believe in aligning incentives with clients and structuring things where it's a win-win scenario. Not that we, think there's anything wrong with taking profits. You never go broke taking profits. However, on this asset in particular, if it's deemed a tier one asset like I think it's going to be, it's just going to continue to rise over your lifetime and potentially your children's lifetime also. And at some point, it probably will truncate and tap out and be, a level $1 million or something per XRP. I do think that the world will be priced in drops. It may take more than a decade, but I think a decade from now, we could see the majority of the markets globally priced in drops, which is really weird to say because the dollar has been, basically the global liquidity mechanism and standard for pricing across all markets over my entire lifetime. And for that to change in my lifetime would be unprecedented. So again, I understand the craziness. I don't have a better word for it than that for me stating these things, but these are my opinion. And this is probably a good time for my disclaimer. So everything said here is my opinion. They are not the opinions of Digital Ascension Group or Digital Wealth Partners. They are also not financial advice. It's only for entertainment, educational purposes only. If you need financial advice, you can go speak with a wealth advisor at Digital Wealth Partners, and they can give you financial advice on your crypto. Don't make any financial decisions before making, or having a conversation with a financial advisor. would be my recommendation. And again, you don't have to work with our firm. If you can find another firm out there that will actually give you advice on your crypto, you should work with them. But as far as I'm aware, there are no other RIAs in the world that will even touch it or work with you on it. So, if you want an advisor, if you want somebody that will actually tell you what to do, how to allocate your crypto to best fit your goals, your, you know, long term, um, I'm at a loss for words. Your goals, your risk tolerance, your time horizon, all the things that we, look through when structuring financial plan for clients over there at Digital Wealth Partners. Was actually, with one of our advisors tonight at the event that we spoke at. So again, just reach out to digitalwealthpartners.net if that's something that interests you and you want to make educated decisions in your allocation for digital assets. But yeah, they will definitely halt trading if there's volatility in the market. We've seen that over and over again across the exchanges, and you would want to be able to work with a broker during that period of time. Caleb and Brown is another broker out there. Uphold's a broker. Then we use a brokerage also at Digital Wealth Partners. But even I don't know if Caleb and Brown went down last time. There was volatility in the market on 1010. I think that people were actually able to execute trades over there, which awesome. We were also able to execute trades at Digital Wealth Partners for our clients when there was volatility in the market, both up and down. So you probably want to be working with a broker or an OTC desk, or somebody that will be able to actually find that liquidity and execute that transaction when you're looking to sell it. We got Nick, my man. He says, Jake, championing the man in the arena. Appreciate you, dude. Thank you for the kind words. He says, saw crypto crash, was bit excited, then checked the Japanese bond bit of spike in the last 2 days. Thanks for your quality of life. Thanks to you, my quality of life will be hugely better with what you've shared. Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. And I'm excited. Yeah, that's what I come on here for. I get a lot of fulfillment from coming on here and answering people's questions and interacting with you guys. None of this matters. Like, we don't have a business. There is nothing if we don't have great clients like yourself or other people that are interested in the products or the education that we provide. So, thank you so much for the kind words. And you are correct. We're right on the precipice of the reverse carry trade unwinding. It's not here yet, but we are at the point where things are about to break here. You've seen the 2-year yield get above 1%. The last time that happened was in 2008. The 10-year yield continues to climb. The 20, the 30, the 40-year, all of them are at levels that we haven't seen in multiple decades. And we're right on the precipice of oil. I'm going to continue to beat the drum of oil. There will be a spike in oil, and that was what will cause Japan to have to aggressively raise interest rates to mitigate the inflation that they're going to see in their economy. You're going to see a rotation out of treasuries, the U.S. dollar denominated treasuries that Japan holds, 1.2 to 1.6 trillion dollars of. Those are going to flood onto the market as they rotate into their own bonds, and people here that are going to be issuing stable coins are going to soak those up. The most of the stable coins that are going to be issued are going to be for inter bank settlement, not intra. So that means they're basically going to hold those treasuries and earn the yield and be able to use that inside their own internal infrastructure to settle value between their branches and locations. Um, and then they'll use an intermediary, bridge asset to settle between those on the back end. This was another big announcement today, that the back end of the stock market, like I've been talking about for 18 months, is going to be the first application for distributed ledger technology and settlement using this technology and these tokens. So, um, again, there's been a lot of people that have been like, "Oh, you didn't get anything right." I've pretty much everything so far I've nailed. The only thing that I'm probably going to be wrong about, and I'll just go ahead and say this one. Tether, when I originally put out the thesis, I thought maybe they would get sanctioned. I thought maybe they wouldn't be compliant with the Genius Act, which wasn't even called anything at the time, because when I put this video out, I just called it stablecoin regulation because they hadn't even proposed it. Um, I thought maybe if it wasn't compliant with that, they would sanction it or do something to it. That hasn't been the issue. What I think is going to end up happening with Tether is the volatility in Bitcoin and gold and potentially something else on their balance sheet is going to cause them to depeg. And I think confidence is going to be lost in that stablecoin. And you're going to see a run on Tether, and the liquidity across all of crypto is going to crumble. And then exchanges are going to be needing XRP also, all at the same time. The amount of demand that's going to be on XRP all at one time is going to be unprecedented. It is going to be the perfect storm, in my opinion, to see a 3 or 4 digit XRP in a very, very short period of time. So, again, not financial advice. Go do your own research, figure it out for yourself. These are my opinions, and I put my money where my mouth is. The only thing I own, and I continue to buy more of, is XRP at this time. Outside of the one flyer that I have on Hash, which was $2,000 that I bought at 2 pennies. So I actually have doubled my money on that at this point. I think Hash is trading at 4 cents. So since I put that out, and it wasn't because of anything I've done to drive volume on it, I'll tell you that. I think they might get listed on some exchanges here in the near future, which would be great for that project. All right. We've got Disco. They say, should we create a different mastermind account once we get the Mercury account under the LLC, or switch the name over from personal account? Should we create a different mastermind account once we get the Mercury account under the LLC, or switch the name from the personal to the account? If you're in the mastermind, I appreciate you bringing it up, and you make a payment for that mastermind, you can write that payment off to the mastermind as continuing education. And the way that you would do that is you would pay that bill out of your bank account for your LLC. So, yeah, you could absolutely switch the payment card from your personal name over to the card associated with the LLC. Anything that is educational for your business purposes is a write off, and you can pay it out of your business. So, we have over 15,000 people there in the mastermind at this point, which I am blown away. Thank you guys so much for joining. I'm super excited to have everybody that's joined in the last month. We've gone from 11,000, 10,000 people to over 15,000 people in a very short period of time. Again, we will be shutting the door on the other side of a $10 XRP. Everything that I've been talking about for 18 months is about to play out here, in my opinion. It's going to blow past $10, and we are going to lock this puppy down. So the people that are in are in. They will be grandfathered in at the prices that they're in at. Anybody else will have to go through, very significant scrutiny in order to be able to obtain access. And the price point that people will be participating at on the other side of price appreciation will be substantially higher than what it is today. So if you want to go ahead and lock in your your membership there to the mastermind, you can go to beyondbroke.com, use the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you the first month for $2 in both social or Carbon One. So again, I'm not going to try to beat a dead horse here. Again, I don't like to fearmonger people or anything like that, but I do think that your time is limited to get into the group and be locked in at these prices. I really, December's going to be fun. I'll just say it that way. We got a lot of people here in the chat tonight. I appreciate you guys again taking time out of your Monday to come hang out with me and ask fantastic questions. I am not going to get to all the super chats tonight. I can already tell. We've got so many people over here on YouTube, X, Facebook, and TikTok as well. I think this is the most people we've ever had on TikTok. We got like over 600 people over here hanging out on TikTok tonight. Appreciate you guys. I'll try to be a little bit better about interacting with y'all on TikTok. I know that I'm not great, but I always, I try to make sure that the people that ask questions via super chat over here that pay get their stuff answered. We've got Roscoe. He says, "Hola, Master Jake, new Carbon One member, disabled Army vet. Thank you for your service, my man. I really appreciate you. However you were disabled, keep you in my prayers, and thank you again for your service to this country. Just want you to know it's very appreciated." He says, we actually had a vets and first responders webinar not too long ago. If you want to go check that out. What little our family has at the end of the month, we bag into our XRP that's in the teens. How confident are you that we will soon have some financial freedom? Um, if it's in the teens, it's going to take you a while. We're working on products right now to be able to generate cash flow for your XRP. We already have some of those. Um, they're not guaranteed returns. They are returns, right? So there's going to be good quarters, there's going to be bad quarters. But over the year, annualized, we're targeting somewhere between 6 and 15% returns on the funds that we have for accredited investors. The other products that we're going to be rolling out in the very near future are going to be for all of our clients, and they will provide people a steady cash flow monthly income off of their XRP holdings that they're working with at Digital Wealth Partners. We are working on ways to be able to democratize access to that. Um, I know a lot of people say, you know, you don't care about the little guy. I absolutely do. I was a little guy not that long ago. I've been very blessed in my life to have some opportunities and take advantage, and things have worked out for me. And I want to be able to give other people that leg up. And so I have not forgotten about you at all. Literally everything I do every single day is to be able to democratize access to this and get to scale where we can democratize access to it. So we are working on it. It's going to take a little while. It's not an overnight thing. The price appreciation will be rapid when it happens. But your ability to monetize that and live off of it, I do think is going to take a little bit longer if you don't quite meet the minimums at Digital Wealth Partners. Not that much longer, not a ton longer, but a little bit longer while we get things in place for that. I'm hoping that we'll have a workable product and solution in place in Q1 of 2026, so that a much broader demographic of people can participate and generate a return on their XRP or their other digital assets that they're holding that have appreciated substantially. I think the next 10 years are going to be fantastic for this asset class. And if you're holding these bearer assets and utility driven assets like HBAR, XLM, XRP, I don't know how Cardano is going to be used, but there'll be something for that one probably. Um, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for these assets, and I think XRP in particular, again, that's why I'm siloed there, is going to have the majority of the benefit in the short term. 7U says, Jake, you are the best, man. Thank you for the kind words, brother. He said, God bless you, and I can't wait to work with you guys. Sorry for the price question. He apologized for you and asked it. But end of Q2 2026 price prediction. Oh, I'm just going to go ahead and apologize before this happens. I don't have my charger for my phone, and it is going to die before I finish this live stream tonight. So if you're on TikTok, you know, you might go to YouTube or another channel. This probably isn't going to last but another 15 minutes here for you guys because I can see my phone battery dying quickly. So back to the question. Q2 2026 price prediction. I think we have stablecoins at not at scale, but significant usage and volume at that point. Probably $1 trillion or more per year in volume. And then in addition to that, you probably have Swift online. And I'm assuming you're asking about XRP. You didn't state, oh, you did state the asset here. It says 2026 Q2 XRP price prediction. So you probably got Swift online at that point. You got the back end settlement of the stock market. You've got FX, probably commodities as well. I don't think you'll have derivatives. I don't think that they will actually have tokenized the stock market at that point. I think that's probably going to come in Q3 or Q4 in 2026. But I'd be much more comfortable by the end of 2026 than Q2. I think by the end of 2026, early 2027, you're looking at a $10,000 XRP. Q2's hard to pin down. I don't know. It's very dependent on what's live and what isn't, and how much volume is moving across the network in order to maintain price stability at those higher values. And it also depends on supply and demand dynamics between the ETFs and other applications where people are holding XRP. Treasury companies will be live at that point. Evernorth will be live. It's likely that we will have liquidity pools and pseudo accounts and borrow lend directly on chain live at that point. You may even have, a few other amendments that haven't even been proposed yet on the XRPL for compliance and other smart contract capabilities in place, which will drive even further demand for the asset and lock it up, and not have a ton of supply available on the market to settle all these payments globally. So, there's just a ton of different components there to be able to pin that down. I think if I had to give a range, easily 4 digits, very confident in 4 digits, potentially 5 digits, but I'm going to say 5 digits comes toward the end of 26, early 27. And yes, I know I sound crazy. You guys can call me crazy. That's fine. I will take the heat. So, again, not financial advice. Go do your own research. Go talk to all the people that I've talked to. Go talk to MasterCard and Ripple and R3 and Bank of America and Citi and Goldman. Um, I almost said one that I shouldn't have said. So, um, anyway, uh, go do your own research. If you think I'm crazy, you can think I'm crazy. That's perfectly fine. But I'm pretty confident that I'm not, based on everything that all the people we've talked to. This person is asked again. Thank you for another super chat. They say, "Hey Jake, do you really think XRP could ever go to 50K one day? And how do you feel about our Swift decision? How do you feel about Swift decision not to use XRP? Is that really bad?" I've never seen Swift say they weren't going to use XRP. Actually, there was a report that was removed almost immediately that stated that Swift was looking into using XRP. And that's the only time that they've actually taken stuff down very quickly. Both Whale Guru and one other account both posted that within minutes of another. And within 30 minutes, those posts were removed. So if that's not telling, I don't know what is. Um, and then you also had Brad Garlinghouse come out in his shareholder notice and talk about, that really seemed like a marketing gimmick for Swift leading up to Cybos, and that it wasn't anything that was actually usable. That the blockchain that they had mentioned, is in beta, and it's not really something that would be feasible, and they'd still have to trial it for a long time. I'm I am I'm just going to say I'm 100% confident that Swift will settle real time using XRP. $5 trillion a day in daily volume moving over the network once XRP is at $100. Once it's at that price, it will have enough liquidity in it to start serving that purpose. And I think that Swift will be the price floor alongside the back end settlement for the stock market. But I think to settle the back end of the stock market, XRP is going to need to be 4 digits um, in order to be able to facilitate that. And if the reverse carry trade unwinds this year, before the Clarity Act is passed, and XRP is the only option because it's the only thing that has clarity here in the US, and the back end settlement of the stock market needs to move to real time, which is exactly what they're saying. I don't know. Monica Long just interviewed the president of NASDAQ at Swell this year, and she literally talked about this use case and distributed ledger technology being used to settle the back end of the stock market and reconcile those payments was the first application that they were going to use it for, and the tokenization of stocks was going to come later. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. I guess we'll see. But yeah, I definitely think XRP will be $50,000. That one's going to take a little longer. That's derivatives. Derivatives need to be tokenized. That's probably a 3 year thing. I've said this before, but I think by the end of Trump's term, $50,000 XRP. So that's the end of 2028. We got another good one here from Hunter. He says, "What are your thoughts on slow rollout of ETFs instead of all at once? The instant supply shock. Prayers to you, legend." Appreciate you, man. Thank you for the prayers. That actually really means a lot. So thank you. When it comes down to the supply shock, they're going to have to eat through what's on the OTC desk and the dark pools before we're going to be able to see the volume step in on the exchanges and the order books to really drive the price to where we know it's going to be. So I think this is actually beneficial the way that they've done it. And it's really beneficial for you because you still got time for a little bit anyway. We got another super chat here that said, I read somewhere that Japan will have their next policy meeting on December 18th and 19th. Do you think the reverse carry trade could begin to unwind before that meeting, or would it be after the official announcement? Japan and the US are not going to be held liable they're not going to want to be held liable for this catastrophe when it happens. They need a scapegoat. They want to point to something else that they pushed me to do it. We didn't want to do it, but we had to do it. Oil. And I think that is imminent. I think that a spike in oil is imminent with everything that's going on in Venezuela and the Middle East, between Iran and Israel. And then you've got Russia, Strait of Hormuz. I've been talking about it for a long time. And that's not me. That's Jim Rickards, who consulted with the U.S. government on currency wars and how this would play out. So you don't have to listen to me. You listen to Jim. And yeah, I think it's a high probability that it likely plays out before that policy meeting because, again, they don't want to be the bad guy. So that gives you, what's that, 2.5 weeks? We'll see. I could be wrong. I'm just some guy on the internet. Take it with a grain of salt. You can tell me I'm crazy, like I said. We got Johnny, my man, Johnny Lakers. What's up, dude? He says, "Hola, Jake. I'm proud that I was here before even the first 1,000 members. Proud to see the mastermind grow as so much. Thank you for all that you do, Jake, and the whole team. Thank you, man. Again, none of this is possible without cool people like Johnny that want to, educate themselves and better themselves for their family and make sure that their legacy, is around for generations." Great grandpa Johnny is who set us up with the XRP and made sure that our family wasn't poor, and that we had access to all these other opportunities. At least that's what I want my great great grandchildren to talk about. Great great grandpa Jake, you know. So that's what we're here to do. We're here to help 1 million people become financially free. I don't know that I'm going to get to 1 million in my lifetime. I'm young; it's possible. But Johnny and his family, I think, are going to be a part of that group. And then, how many people can they help and impact over their lifetimes and their kids' lifetimes? That's a lot of people. So that is the power of the mastermind, and that's the whole point. If you want to be part of a fantastic community that has more in real life events than anybody else, there's a health share plan in there. There's private deals in the community. You can find other people where you are that are cool to hang out with and understand this stuff, so you don't feel like you're on an island. And you're going to have cool people to go party with on the yacht on the other side of price appreciation. Um, it's lame to get rich alone. I'll tell you that. Um, flying alone on your private jet to your own private island, not that great. You at least want your family. You want a good family. And then you want other cool people that you can go do cool stuff with that aren't broke and can step away and actually enjoy time and make memories with. Right. And that's the other power of the mastermind that I think we're going to have post price appreciation. Is you're going to have 15,000 other cool people to go do cool stuff with and invest in things and throw parties with and tour the world with and make memories with. So, really excited about that. And again, if you do want to be part of that community, we're going to lock it down after a $10 XRP. So I would suggest that you get in now. It is at beyondbroke.com, and you use the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO, like Mary Oscar, gets you the first month for $2. And that discount's going to be gone in the very near future. Also talked about that today. Oh, the battery's dwindling over here on TikTok. Appreciate you guys taking time out of your evening. I'm going to answer just a couple questions over here. My wife. So there's a Black Friday special apparently that I need to tell you guys about before my phone dies. Decent has a Black Friday special on their wallet. People ask us all the time what we prefer for a cold wallet. There's a lot of good cold wallets out there. I like Decent for the biometric. They have the largest breadth of assets to be able to custody in their cold wallet. They get a 25th seed phrase or word for the seed phrase that provides more security. They do have yield for XRP also through Doppler Finance, which is pretty interesting at this point. And again, they have a Black Friday sale. So if you have, not just XRP and some other assets that you want to move to a cold wallet off the exchanges, that would be my place to go buy one. We do have a code, full transparency. We're an affiliate. I get like $5 if you go buy it through our link. So again, a lot of other good wallets out there. There's EliPal, there's Tangem, there's Enclave. There's a bunch of stuff. So you don't have to use Decent. That's just my preferred wallet. And again, we're an affiliate. So but I wouldn't promote it if I didn't like it. Like I've actually used Decent, and it's my favorite out of all the stuff. That's why we work with them. Graham, my man, he says, I'm in the mastermind and honestly just wanted my principal back after the crash. I'm hopeful for $10 by end of year, but whatever makes you so confident in 100. I think I explained all of that earlier in the live here. But again, Ben, I've had a lot of conversations with people that are, the way that I've said it in the past is I feel like an Indian on the campground, and the shamans come out of the teepee and they talk to me every once in a while, and I pick up little nuggets here and there, and I'm able to discern, what's real and what's not, and be able to cipher through things and pick out the gold nuggets, and then kind of link all that stuff together. And I don't ever like to waste anybody's time, but if I am in a room and I can have a conversation, I will ask questions that add to the conversation, but also um, might coincide with my conviction on XRP. And I listen for the answers. And sometimes it's just a visceral reaction that I get from people when I ask these questions. So again, it's an amalgamation of things that's led me to the level of confidence that I have. And again, the other, like, there's just so many things culminating here, and any one of those things independent of one another doesn't necessarily mean anything, but them all together, the sum of the parts is greater than the whole. No, sum of the whole is greater than the parts. Is that what it is? Yeah, I think that's the saying. Um, you got a bunch of Ripple executives for international stuff becoming very loud on Twitter here recently in comparison to what they normally are. That's a big tell for me. You had Gemini. I retweeted this. They said, 31 days left in the year, lock in. It's a pretty large exchange to come out and make that type of statement, which happens to coincide with what I've been talking about. I don't know. Again, things that make you go, We got G2 Brecker, B Raker. I butchered that. Sorry. GTO. Yeah, I'm not even going to try. Sorry about that. He says, thank you for the super chat, though. He says, Jake, you state that the reverse carry trade will cause significant liquidation. What specific effect will it have on XRP, short-term, long-term? Thank you for all that you do. Means a lot to many. I really wish that I had a crystal ball that would tell me the exact volatility and what price it was going to fall to and what price it was going to go to. Or if it was just going to go straight up. I don't know. I just know the long-term outcome is a significantly higher price for XRP when the reverse carry trade unwinds. So if you want to play with a falling knife and try to catch that sucker when the whole thing shuts down and there's no liquidity in crypto, go for it. I'm not going to play that game. I would rather just dollar cost average and not take enough leverage to where I'm going to get liquidated and be happy with the price, that whatever it goes to over the long term. I'm not going to get greedy. Pigs get slaughtered. Bears make money. Bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered. Is that it? All right, we'll continue here. We're down to the last 2% on the iPhone. Do you guys feel it over here on TikTok? We've got the Jaybird 101. They say after price appreciation, what what after price appreciation, what's way will be the best to take profits for individuals who need to transfer from a cold wallet to an exchange for fiat? I'm assuming he's asking what's the best way to take profits. Again, OTC desk and relationships are going to be your friend post price appreciation. Um, Digital wealth partners or through a brokerage, they're going to be your best options in order to be able to source liquidity during that period of time. Um, Here's the deal for me. I don't know why you would sell the golden goose. Outside of what we're doing, and I'm just going to be real transparent with you guys. We're early at Digital Wealth Partners. We are building things that do not exist on chain, and it's somewhat crude the way that we're having to do it. It's cumbersome. It is not smooth and easy. Okay. DeFi liquidity pools and AMMs and all these things, borrow lend that's going to be available on chain on the XRPL for institutions, by the way, not for retail. That's again why we help people set up LLCs and all the things that we do. Um, I mean, I guess you'll be able to participate. Zaman Wallet will probably have something that'll allow you to participate in these pools if you understand what you're doing. But there will be risk associated with liquidity pools and the AMMs. There's impermanent loss and other stuff. So anyway, back to what I was talking about. We're structuring all this stuff off chain. Um, Over time, all of it's going to move on chain, and we're going to be on the spearhead or on the cutting edge, on the bleeding edge of that. As that happens, we want to be the innovators in the space. Right now, if Digital Wealth Partners were to move our hedge fund on chain, we would be the largest XRP liquidity pool in existence or DeFi protocol. We have over $350 million worth of XRP in our hedge fund being put to work today to be able to generate returns for our clients. Um, so, and over time, we want to move that on chain. Like, why wouldn't we? It's going to create more efficiencies. But we have to wait for the amendments to be passed on the XRPL to do that. So, my point with selling the golden goose, you're going to see price appreciation. It's going to happen post price appreciation, just like Ethereum and a lot of these other projects. There's going to be a flood of people that come to this ecosystem to build applications and ways to generate additional value using the asset. If you sell it before that happens, you're going to be like David Schwartz selling your 40,000 Ethereum to put a roof on your house at $1. And again, I'm not trying to dissuade people or from taking profits. You never go broke taking profits. One of the people earlier said, I just want to take my original investment back out. Cool. I think that's a great way to go about it. Now you've completely de-risked from your position and you're playing with house money. Okay. Um, or you might have other cash flow assets or other businesses or other things that you want to do that are going to generate outsized returns with the cash off of the XRP. Cool. I get that. I would argue that this is going to be the most lucrative asset over the long term that you could possibly hold. And that's why I think banks and institutions, and the BIS in particular, is going to designate it a tier one asset. And once they do that, these banks are going to want to make money on their XRP. They're not going to want it to sit idle all the time. They want to be able to leverage it just like they do their cash and other assets on their balance sheet. So they're going to be incentivized to fund DeFi applications and development on chain on the XRPL. You're going to see a ton. The amount of people that are going to be working on this chain from an institutional development standpoint is going to be absurd post price appreciation. But it's going to take a little bit of time for all that to get up to scale. We've already seen Flare, we've already seen Doppler, we've already seen Midas, we've already seen us. There's some other people that are building out applications, not necessarily in an institutional manner, but in a DeFi capacity that I think will eventually get rolled into an institutional manner over the long term. We want to be that bridge. Digital Wealth Partners wants to be the conduit that all that happens through, and what allows retail or high net worth individuals holding large amounts of digital assets to get access to these institutional products. So again, not trying to dissuade people from taking profits. You have your exit strategy and your goals, and whatever plan you've put in place, execute that. At least you have a plan. But when it comes down to it, I won't be selling any. I would much rather borrow against it. It's going to be cheaper on the taxes. Japan just implemented a flat tax of 20% across all crypto gains. I don't know that we're going to get that here in the US. The US may say, no capital gains tax on crypto. That's going to incentivize a lot of people to sell their crypto. But again, what's the cost to benefit? If you're missing out on those long-term gains just to save on the taxes, like, you don't think XRP is going to go up another 20% in a year? I do. I think there's going to be applications and things where you can put your XRP to work to generate an additional 20% per year in cash from your XRP. We have some of those products in the pipeline. So, anyway, beating a dead horse here, but I'm not going to be selling my XRP. Off the grid hero, what's up, my man? He says, after price appreciation, stocks, crypto, metal, lands, collectibles, what else to look for? Investments, supply shock seems first domino. No, it's not domino. Dominion, first Dominion Bank. I don't know where you're headed with Dominion deal. There's going to be a lot of opportunities, but I will say this. I actually just shot a video about this weekend. There's going to be a regression to the mean with the implementation of AI and blockchain technology that creates efficiencies across markets. What that means is there's not as much volatility, there's not as much alpha, and there's not as much opportunity to generate returns in a significant manner in a short period of time. Markets will still trend up and to the right because they will revert back to like real economics instead of speculation. And the emotional, whipsaw that is people investing in markets will go away. It'll still be there to some capacity, but it's going to be far less of an extent. So your ability to generate significant amounts of wealth in very short periods of time is going to be truncated. There's not going to be anywhere near as many opportunities as there is right now in the fourth turning that we sit in. So, I'm assuming that you're looking for ROI on these things. There will still definitely be opportunity in crypto. There will be opportunity in other companies, startups for sure, new technologies for sure. I had a call this morning with people that democratize access to invest in athletes, young soccer players before they get listed or signed by teams moving on chain through Athleta. So there's going to be a ton of new investments that come to market. That's things that you've never been able to invest in before. And I think a lot of the old standing things that have existed in the past will still do well, but they'll just be a lot less volatile and there'll be a lot less opportunity in those things, crypto included. Vanguard in the chat. That's going to be big tomorrow. Hope you guys are ready. This person talks about Alex Cobb. So for those that don't know who Alex Cobb is, he's an OG. He's been around since very early on, 2017, 2018, maybe even before for XRP. And it's very interesting that every time he does a live stream, XRP tanks. He's like, yeah, it's about to run up. And then he gets on the live stream and it goes off a cliff. He says, what are your thoughts on Alex Cobb? How often do you watch him? Today, he said he thinks you are saying $100 by the end of 2025 to promote your company. Thoughts? Well, that's sad to hear. I like Alex. I mean, that's fair. Look, those are fair statements. I could see exactly how people might think that. I don't know. I guess that benefits me tangentially, right? So if people are bullish on the asset, they might accumulate more XRP in order to be able to participate with digital wealth partners. They would certainly probably set up an LLC to make sure that they're getting the anonymity and creditor protection around the asset that they thought was going to go substantially higher. That's fair. a fair statement. Hopefully, he wasn't malicious about it. I don't watch Alex that often. Um, Actually, kind of look up to him, or have for a long time. A lot of these creators that were in the space before me, I look up to. Like they're cool people. Um, at least in the few interactions that I've had with them. So hopefully, he wasn't demeaning on it. That would be upsetting. Um, and again, I could see how people would state that. What I would say is, I come on here and I'm just real with you guys. These are my opinions. I believe every word that I'm saying on here. Okay. I I don't come on here to like clickbait people. I don't get paid off YouTube. We have real businesses outside of any of the wealth management stuff that we run that generates cash flow. Okay. Outside of the mastermind, we have other businesses that are real businesses that we've built tech platforms and other things. Um, so yeah, okay, that's fair. It would benefit me, but I really do believe what I'm stating, and I've got the theory that backs it up. It's not just me coming on here to promote my corporation or the stuff that we do and telling you that, trust me, bro, it's $100 by the end of the year. I'm not that guy. I I want people to understand the mechanisms by which this is going to happen and educate people so that they actually understand what to look for, and how to prepare themselves. Um, and if again, I don't like zero sum games. I always want to be able to provide more value than we're taking, or exchanging with somebody else for whatever, service or product we're providing. And I like to align incentives. So when I'm right about the price appreciation on XRP, people will be very happy that they took those measures and did the things that they did. So I don't know. Again, hopefully that wasn't malicious what he came out and said. Uh, I've never said anything demeaning or bad about Alex. It's interesting to me that all these other people are talking about me, though. I don't know why people don't just come out with their own content, um, and they feel it relevant to, which I appreciate. Like, I don't mind it at all. If people want to point to me and say I'm the crazy guy with the price predictions and that they're more realistic, by all means, go ahead. I'm okay with being the lunatic out here in this space because I have conviction that it's going to happen. And two, I've given you the actual way that it is going to happen. There is a culmination of events, a perfect storm that transpires that leads to the price appreciation and meteoric rise of XRP in a very short period of time. And that's been alluded to by a lot of people, not just me. There's been David Schwartz. There's been Shane Ellis. There's been um, who Robbie Mitchnick. All people that worked at Ripple, not me. I've never worked at Ripple. I don't work for Ripple. I've never been paid by Ripple. We go to Swell. We know them. We talk to them. I've never been compensated in any capacity. Never an employee. Nothing. Um, I'd be okay if they wanted to pay me. That's fine. But they haven't. Um, anyway, so I, it does benefit us tangentially, but I am genuinely on here stating my real opinions and what I believe. And if that's a bad thing, then is what it is. I'm not changing for anybody. Um, we got Teddy. He says, I don't think XRP can be confiscated from owners' cold wallets. You're correct. It cannot be frozen. It cannot be clawed back. It is the native asset on the XRPL, and the origin account was black holed. So none of that is possible. They also can't issue more XRP. He says, what stops institutional custodians from complying with demands to turn over clients' holdings? Does the wallet whitelist prevent this? Yeah, you just say, move it to my whitelisted wallet. That's the only place it can go. And you're the signer on the account. And we do what you say. So the other thing that could, if you wanted an ironclad way of doing it, we do have offshore trusts that we custody assets for. And that's outside the government's purview here in the U.S. If you have an asset protection trust in the Cook Islands, and your assets are, you know, held by that entity, U.S. government rules don't comply there. But I don't know why people fearmonger about this. Our government does not care about your XRP. Okay, they don't. Um, there's plenty. There's 100 billion of them. There's a reason for that. They thought through this. Okay, they made it where there was enough for a retail market to be able to make a market and add liquidity to the asset to be able to trial it for an extended period of time, a decade, before the institutional adoption would take place. And they made sure that there was enough of the asset that the institutions wouldn't need any of the retail XRP. Now, again, if they make it tax free, they're definitely going to incentivize you to sell it back to them. They'd be fine with that. They'll take your XRP. But there's not going to be a confiscation. And the other thing that would prevent that is holding it inside of a, guess what, corporation or a trust. Institutions taking, so if you look at the act in 1933 where they confiscated gold, guess who they confiscated it from? It was the American public or individuals. It was not from corporations. So again, not trying to fearmonger people. I don't think this is even going to happen at all. But if you are concerned about it, structuring your assets inside of an LLC would be a fantastic way to be able to mitigate this risk. If you do want to work with us to do, set up an LLC as a holding company to be able to manage your digital assets, we absolutely do that in Wyoming. And it's $2,000 end to end, everything you need: corporate veil, EIN, articles of organization, registered agent, certificate of good standing, the operating agreement that's drafted specifically for this type of corporation. All you got to do is go to Digital Wealth Partners, or sorry, wrong website, Digital Family Office. You're going to go to digitalfamilyoffice.io and use the code 50OFF, 50OFFDAGLLC. That's 50OFFDAGLLC. Get you everything end to end that you need to protect your digital assets. Have creditor protection, anonymity, the full breadth of the tax code to be able to offset tax implications if you do take profit, or if you use the asset to generate additional income for you and your family. It's pass-through taxation, and it does not remove taxes at all. You just get the full breadth of the tax code to be able to offset those tax implications or take the deductions on that income. And in Wyoming, the reason we do it there, it has the best regulation for digital assets outside of the other benefits I just mentioned. All right, we are a little more than an hour in. I'm going to tell people probably stop submitting super chats. I'm not even going to get to all the ones that I have out here already. If you do want to send me your super chat, if I miss it, please, it's $2. Get in the mastermind, DM me on Discord, send me your super chat. I will absolutely answer it there. I try to get back to as many people as I can. And I appreciate, all the people that do DM me that way. Does take me a little while to respond because I get so much volume there, but I will get back to it. K27 says, legend. Here's to a Christmas to remember. 3 digits incoming. All hail King Jake. I am not a king. I am not a monarch. I'm just a regular dude. I've just been really blessed, and I'm humbled to think about it a lot of the time, to be in the rooms that I've been in and have the conversations that I have had with people in order to be able to have the discernment to come out here and have the conversations and even talk about the price levels that I am, because apparently this is rubbing people the wrong way. There's other people that do not like me stating this, a la Alex Cobb, I guess. I wouldn't come out here and risk my reputation and state it if I didn't think it was a high probability. Just so you guys know. And again, all the stuff that I state on here are my own opinions. They're not the opinions of the firm. They are what I truly believe. And I give you guys the full map on what it's gonna take for it to happen. But every single day we inch just a little bit closer. The news that's out there starting to lean toward exactly what I've been talking about here. And maybe that's just confirmation bias. I'm open to that. That's fair, right? I try not to live in an echo chamber. I try to look at outside, information and analyze things and actually look at the opposite side and play devil's advocate to my stuff. When it continues to compound on itself and I continue to get validation, even when trying to remove that bias, I'm just going to come out here and double down on it. And that's where I'm at with things. We got Omar, my man. He says, where can we see OTC sales, or could you display it OTC live? Is there anything preventing you from showing us? That's not a thing, my man. Unless you go talk to the OTC desk and ask them how much is available or how much they could source, like I do, you're not going to know. And unless you had access to all of the OTC desk at Gemini, Coinbase, Kraken, Uphold, and all the other ones, it would be very difficult to determine how much was actually available. I think it's about a $500 million XRP is what I think's left and available on the OTC desk in the dark pools. Falcon X and Kraken both have a dark pool. And there's a couple others. So no, there's unfortunately there's not an open market or something that you can go verify the availability for that on, and it's nothing that I could actually show you real time what's left and available. And that, you could go do your own research. You could call all of them and ask that question to say, if I brought you, $1 billion, could you fill that order? And see what they say. Now, they're probably going to think you're ridiculous and probably not going to talk to you very long unless you've actually already executed some pretty substantial orders with them. They may not even entertain the conversation. So, but that would be the way to do it. T Lamb, they say, after price appreciation and I look to buy my transatlantic boat, can I do that with an LLC structure that benefits the pass through from my digital holding LLC? So you'd pass the funds into the new LLC that would acquire the boat? Is that what you're asking? The answer is yes. Transatlantic boat. I'm thinking more like a yacht, my man. And if you need a yacht broker, Alistair is one of our partners. He's over there in North Carolina, South Carolina, North Carolina, one of the two. I had him on the channel probably a little more than a year ago, and he does help people source large watercraft. He's part of a much larger organization that's global that does yachting. And they will also, do the lease back and all the other stuff with that watercraft, and maintain it for you and do all the other stuff that's required in order to, benefit from that. But you could absolutely purchase it through another structured LLC underneath your holding company. Now, in order to get the write-off, you would have to use it for business. So you're going to need to lease it out or do something with it in order to get the write-off, or you're going to have to host parties or networking events or something on your watercraft where there is a product or service associated with that. Maybe you're charging for people's access to it to be able to participate for a period of time at those events. There's lots of different ways that you could structure it. You could also do it through a debt note where you loaned the new business the money, and then did use the craft in some way to be able to generate income to be able to pay that note off over whatever period of time you wanted to. All of those are ways that you could structure that deal. We've got the real David Vaughn. He says, I got 2,500 in an IRA. I just started without giving financial advice. Should I put it into XRP? Thanks, man. You're the man for real. Appreciate that, dude. Thank you for the kind words. Got this on a floppy table here tonight. Inside of an IRA. Depends on who the IRA is with. You would have to move it to iTrust or Bitcoin IRA or another IRA provider in order to purchase XRP with it. If you wanted to own the bearer asset inside of it. If you're just getting started, you're young. You can trade inside of an IRA, depending on what type it is, either tax deferred or tax free, if it's a Roth. Um, Private equity would be great, especially on a company that you thought was going to do really well. That's how Peter Thiel turned his IRA into a $5 billion Roth IRA. Was he purchased shares of PayPal, of his own company, which the way that he structured that you can't do anymore because the IRS figured out what he did. But you still can own private investments through your IRA. Now you would need to be accredited in order to participate in a lot of those. But for $2,500, if it's inside of a traditional broker, Schwab or Fidelity, probably look at like an XRP ETF or XRP in the Treasury company, Evernorth. Those would be what I would be looking at inside of a qualified account if it's already with one of those traditional people, because otherwise you're going to have to move it to a different provider, and that's going to take, again, like I talked about earlier, like 10 business days. They do not want to give up that money when you're moving it to another provider. Um, so that would be the fastest way to get access to something that was a derivative of XRP that's going to benefit with the price appreciation inside that account. Now, again, you could absolutely move it to another provider and purchase it directly, but I just do the ETF or treasury company. Not financial advice, like you said. Mohammed says, "Hey Jake, what if the reverse carry trade happens too soon while XRP is between $2 and $3? Will they still use it to move their money back to Japan? What would a scenario where XRP does not jump to high prices when the reverse carry trade happens?" There is not one. um, there are multiple mechanisms where things will have to be routed through XRP or another liquidity provision or liquidity buffer. The FX market's going to get slammed when there's dollars and every other currency that's sold off in markets rushing to swap back to yen to repay those loans. SBI is a huge player there in Japan and in the FX market for that swap. And XRP sits really well positioned. And that would be a bunch of demand on XRP. Again, I don't want to be the trust me bro guy. I'm trying to think if there is any situation where the reverse carry trade unwinds and XRP does not benefit. We already have the ETFs out. So like that would have been like the thing. If the reverse carry trade had unwound before the Stablecoin Act had been passed, or the Genius Act, which it almost did, and then they stopped it 5 months after I put out the theory that it started to unwind in August of 2024, and then they held interest rates and calmed the market down. At that point, that would have been bad. We didn't have the stablecoin bill passed. We didn't have, a progressive SEC and CFTC here in the U.S. We didn't have Trump in office. We didn't have a bipartisan support for crypto and adoption. You didn't have the ability for banks to hold digital assets to pay for gas fees. You didn't have, all the things that and the ETFs. There were no ETFs to be able to drive liquidity into XRP and push the price higher through demand. But now, all that stuff's in place. So I can't really see a situation or scenario where the reverse carry trade unwinds at this point. Okay, the other one would be the Clarity Act gets passed. Okay, we'll play devil's advocate here. The Clarity Act gets passed tomorrow somehow. Not going to happen. It's going to be 2026, like I've been talking about. But let's say that did happen. That could be a situation where there could be multiple competitors and potentially other options outside of XRP that would take a portion of that settlement. But as long as the Clarity Act hasn't been passed, really the only option here domestically is XRP. It's the only thing that has clarity as not a security that has the settlement speed and cost and profile of what the banks need in that situation to be able to de-risk and improve liquidity for real-time settlement. So that's the only circumstance where I think you might have a point that maybe not all of it goes into XRP. It would still be a significant amount. William Parker, he says, Jake, you are an amazing person. Thank you, dude. You guys are so kind. Again, I'm just a regular guy. I'm just like you. I'm not super special by any means. I think, again, been really blessed and privileged to be in positions to be able to help other people and provide value and be in rooms and have conversations that I've had. And again, thank you for the kind words in the super chat. He says, God bless. I am in the mastermind and have an LLC set up. Awesome, dude. Well done. Good job being proactive. He says, will we be able to onboard with you when investments totals reach 500,000 with price appreciation? Thank you for your devotion, commitment to our future. I'm going to do my best to keep it there, William. In all likelihood, we're going to have to raise the minimum post price appreciation. Not because we don't want to keep it low and not because we don't want to help as many people as possible, mainly because the standard of service that we want to be able to provide. I am scaling. We are scaling as fast as we can in order to be able to meet the demand that we are seeing post price appreciation. Maybe there's other companies that show up, and with infrastructure, it took us a long time to be able to streamline this process and be able to structure things the right way, mitigate risk, counterparty risk, and like we've perverted isn't the right word, adapted the infrastructure and things that exist for um, the things the way they are at Anchorage and everything else that we've done with all of our other partners to meet the specificity in the way that we know that things need to be done in order to be able to meet clients' best interest. And I don't want that to go by the wayside in the sake of making profits and onboarding as many people as we can. The level of service and standard of service that we want to have as a company should not suffer. And believe me, I'm trying to work through all the things that I can to be able to move as close as possible to where I could say yes to this question. I'm just hesitant to say it right now because I do believe that we're right on the precipice of this stuff here. And if you asked me, like, if could you take another 10,000 clients tomorrow, I would be very hard pressed. I want to. I want to help everybody. But being realistic to the standards that we're going to hold ourselves to, that would be very difficult. So I just want to be real with people. There's a lot of people that they've got enough XRP. They don't want to pay the AUM fees, which I get. I completely understand that. We're going to be rolling out a yield product in the very near future to make sure that we're always providing more value than we're charging. Very near future. And I've been saying that for a while, but like, sign on the dotted line, baby. It's time to go. In December here, and it'll be. I think even at that point, the amount of demand is going to be. I don't want to say crippling. That's not the right word either, but like significant. The people that have been proactive and have worked with us and are in place now will benefit the most. If you've been on the fence, if you have been waiting, if you have had hesitation, we take care of people that take care of us. Loyalty is a big, big principle of mine, and that's what I do. I take care of people that take care of us. So if you've been a client for an extended period of time, you're going to take precedent over people that haven't. Not that we don't want to serve everybody, but again, people that have been here with us and supported us and done, paid a little bit more to make sure we've been successful, we're going to make sure that they get taken care of. So if you want to be part of that group, we would love to have you over there at Digital Wealth Partners. All you got to do is go to digitalwealthpartners.net, And use the contact us form. If you have at least 50,000 XRP, you will need your assets inside of an LLC or trust or an IRA in order to participate. And it could be spread across those things. It doesn't have to be 50,000 in one. Chris, my man, he says, if XRP will be worth so much in the future, why wouldn't the people in the know, all the bankers and institute investors, be buying XRP individually themselves, or are they? I'll tell you a story that I was told not too long ago. This is a good friend of mine. I believe him nameless. He has a cousin that's a Uber driver, and he picked up this affluent family. You could tell that they had money just by the clothes that they were wearing. And he's driving them back to the hotel in Orlando because they were at Disney World. And he gets to hear him talk a little bit in the back seat, and he starts to talk to him a little bit. I don't even know if I should say the name of the family. It's a well-known food brand that you would know. You have eaten some of their singles in your lifetime. They have a substantial amount of XRP. A lot of these people that you just mentioned are starting to wake up to this fact. We've had conversations recently with some very large family offices that have started to make significant allocations. There's only 7 million wallets, 7.4 million wallets on the XRPL. If you're here, do you know how rare that is? Like, there's 8 billion people on the planet, and there's only we'll call it 8 million wallets. There's 8 billion people on the planet. There's 8 million wallets. How many Bitcoin wallets are there? There's a lot of Bitcoin wallets at this point. A lot of people own Bitcoin. Not that many people own XRP. Half those wallets are less than 100 XRP. Not that much XRP. It might be one day. Post price appreciation could be a lot of money. But anyway, here the other thing is, and I had this conversation at the dinner tonight. People that have already made a bunch of money, do you know what their primary objective is? It's return of capital, wealth preservation. They're not going to take exorbitant risks or, roll the dice on things with significant amounts of money um, to put themselves in a position to lose. You should only have to get rich once. Okay. And they understand that. So this whole asset class is still risky to them. It's the Wild West. They're not even going to look at it. 62% of family offices have no allocation nor intention of making an allocation to crypto. 38% of family offices, $16 trillion globally out of the 10,000 plus family offices. There's 4 trillion of that are even looking at this asset class. Maybe 5 trillion out of 16. And those are the people that made their money through high risk return, investments by starting companies or, doing something very lucrative in order to be able to generate, $1 billion exit. If those people aren't willing to do it, and people, again, the people that have the money, they don't care to risk it. They've already made their money. So that's why, there aren't more, but there are starting to be. I'm literally having a lot of conversations here recently because they see it as a hedge against the losses that could potentially come from the reverse carry trade because of a lot of the information I've put out. Those are the conversations that I'm having now. It's not about, oh, I'm going to make a bunch of money. It's how do I preserve my wealth and use this as a uncorrelated bet that it's going to hedge against the losses that I'm going to see from this other stuff unwinding. They're not dumping all, $1 billion that they have into XRP. They're preserving their wealth. And I think that's a mindset shift that a lot of people are going to have post price appreciation. And again, sorry to get on a soapbox here for people, but rolling it all on one thing, I view wealth creation and wealth preservation like a tree. You're going to plant a seed. You're going to water that seed. That's all you're going to do for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. And that tree is going to grow. And it's going to have a big trunk that's the core thesis of your investment, whether that's your business or an investment or some other way to be able to generate substantial value in society. That's the core, the trunk. It's going to grow big and tall, and it's going to bear fruit, and it's going to spread out when it bears fruit. Okay, you're going to have all these branches, and that's your diversification into other stuff to be able to hedge losses. If one side of the tree gets hit by lightning, this tree still lives because it's got uh, branches in other sectors. Okay, that are going to continue to persist beyond just this one part of the tree dying. If it gets a fungus, there's a bunch of things that could happen, right? Um, but that is wealth preservation at scale. Is you've generated, your core is still there. You still have a big strong trunk and maybe a significant allocation in one area, but you have branches that branch off into a bunch of other areas in case part of the tree dies. So hopefully post price appreciation, you're not going to roll the dice again. Like I stated earlier, you should only have to get rich once. We've got Lil Jack. He's a rapper. He says, "Hey Jake, what words of encouragement could you give to the little guy that has 5K and below XRP that may turn into the most money people might ever have in their life?" Congratulations, dude. People that have found this now, you've you found a lottery ticket. Start educating yourself. The somebody asked me the other day if you had $1,000. Oh, it was on the Wham Bam podcast. Say you got $1,000 and you're in your early 20s. What would you put it in? I said, um, self-education, self-improvement. Your skills, traits, and beliefs, and what you're able to provide in society. That's how you're really going to make a significant income, which you can then use to generate wealth. You'll be able to invest that significant income and live below your means for an extended period of time to be able to compound that at a faster rate. If you have, and a lot of people that we work with are just cool W-2 people that have, a decent income, and they saw this opportunity and they went hard over the last 5 years, investing as much as they could, live below their means, cut cost, scrimped on stuff, and just stacked XRP. And kudos to those people because it will change their life and their family's life for generations. But it could be in a bad way too. 70% of lottery winners go broke within 3 to 5 years, file bankruptcy. They would have been better off not winning the lottery because they didn't understand the difference between assets and liabilities. They didn't understand taxes. They didn't understand the way to structure and protect their assets from creditors and lawsuits. More money, more problems is the thing. So my best piece of advice to somebody that has that amount of XRP, you have more time before it's going to become a really, really big piece of your portfolio. It may already be like your total portfolio because you might not have any other investments. But I'm just saying, like real wealth, 50, $100 million, it's going to take you some time to get there with 5,000 XRP. It's not like it's going to be an overnight deal. It's going to be big jumps in short periods of time, and even over the next 3 to 5 years. Like that's still a very fast move to that level of wealth. Um, but if you're not educating yourself during that period and making sure you understand what to do with it, how to preserve it, how to structure it, how to mitigate risk, what tax implications are, how to mitigate estate tax and pass this on to the next generation, how to use life insurance and infinite banking, how to use debt as a tool, you're going to be lost. Make sure that you start surrounding yourself with the right people now too. You know, find those mentors, find those professionals that you're going to work with, tax attorneys, accountants, CPAs, wealth managers. All your group that you're going to work with is going to be extremely important. If they're willing to work with you now or at least entertain the conversation before you have the money, they're real people. You know that they actually care about you. If they're only there after the money shows up, that's in question. There will be sharks. There will be a lot of people that circle the XRP family, and unfortunately, people will fall prey to them. We're going to do the best that we can to possibly keep those people away from the people in the mastermind. Again, you don't have to use our services. I've built this selfishly, and I want to provide as much value as I can for the XRP family and community. But realistically, I just want people to educate themselves and start preparing themselves now. Like if you learned nothing else, if you took nothing else away from tonight, please, 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 if you have an allocation to XRP, no matter how big or small, please start preparing yourself for what wealth preservation is going to look like, and not lose it. And don't put yourself in a bad position post price appreciation where you're going to have to file bankruptcy because you've bought a bunch of liabilities and didn't understand the difference between liabilities and assets and cash flow and all of the other things we just talked about. So if you want to learn more on that, again, try not to shill it here. I'm biased. I think that the mastermind provides great value in that avenue. But however you can get that education, I would encourage you to do it. All right. We're already almost 2 hours in here, so we're probably going to take another 4 questions, and we're going to wrap it up tonight. We got Mark. He says, thanks for everything. LLC done. Trust done. DWP enrolled. XRP in Anchorage done. Participation in the funds done. You're crushing it, dude. Thank you so much. We're super excited to have you as a client and be working with you. He says, question, if Japan raises 25 basis points and the Fed lowers 25 basis points, does that initiate the reverse carry trade? I think so. I think it absolutely would. I'm looking more for an aggressive hike from Japan from oil. I don't think we're going to make it to the 18th, 19th this month when the FOMC is and when the Bank of Japan, has their meeting. I think literally, potentially, in the next 2 weeks, maybe faster, we're going to see things escalate here at the end of the year. I've been talking about it all year long. I could be wrong, okay? And if I come on, if it doesn't happen, I will come on here and say I was wrong. Plain and simple. I'm fine to do that. But I am predicting, if Jake Tradamus, if you want to, that we are going to see the reverse carry trade unwind potentially in the next 2 weeks. And I do think the catalyst will be oil spiking. We just did this one, little Jack. We got Marin 801. I say legend. What's up? Carbon one here. Still building my bag. Very good. My question is, if you are a high risk health risk, life insurance will be expensive. If the Rockefeller method still valuable with that, would that be better? Would there be a better way, if not viable? So you can absolutely take the insurance policy out on other family members that might be younger and in better health. The other thing that we can do with PPLI in particular is we work with another company that structures things in a very unique way. I won't say the name of the company, but I'll tell you, and you could probably guess who this client is. Okay. Older gentleman, worth a lot of money, owns a sports team, maybe one that's close to me. Initials JJ. We'll call him JJ. Okay. He's very old, and he wanted to set up this PPLI life insurance to be able to borrow against it and do all the fun stuff with the infinite banking and a lot of what you just mentioned there with the Rockefeller method to be able to pass on his assets to his children, beneficiaries. And this company was able to structure that policy because they didn't cut it on him, they didn't cut it on his family, they cut it on another group that they're able to aggregate and then to be able to diversify the risk across. So I don't know if you're picking up when I'm laying down, but JJ is worth a lot of money, and he's very old and not in the best health in the world by any means. And he was still able to get this done. So we have solutions for that. Um, where there's a will, there's a way, my man. Um, will it still be expensive? Yes. 50, 100 million, $200 million life insurance policies are going to be expensive. They're going to be expensive. But the benefits that they provide you far outweigh the cost, especially when mitigating taxes and doing all the other fun stuff that you can do with them. So happy to have that conversation. Um, over $5 million would be the cash value that you would probably need to invest in that type of policy. But as price appreciation happens and a lot of these assets are spitting off significant amounts of cash flow, I think a lot of people are going to be looking into that. All right, we're going to take two more here, and then we're going to wrap it up tonight. We got Jaybird again. He says XRP bag is heavy and good. 12/31, Jake's birthday. My birthday is not at the end of the year, but I do appreciate that. He says, but with the dominoes close to falling, should we wait for the price fall more on XRP, or can you touch on a couple cryptos we should buy while prices drop? I can't give you financial advice. Like I stated earlier in this video, I'm not a financial advisor. If you need financial advice and somebody to tell you which cryptos to buy and can execute the trades for you, you should go talk to Digital Wealth Partners. They will absolutely be able to do that for you. However, I can talk to what I am doing, and then you can, do with that what you will. I'm continuing to dollar cost average every day. Every day. So that's up to you, what you want to do. I don't know what cycle you get paid on or how things work for you, whatever cadence makes sense, but dollar cost averaging is always the best way to go, in my opinion. Um, average down, average up, whatever. I know people want to get the most bang for their buck. I get that. I'll put it to you this way. Do you think people were mad about buying Bitcoin at $2 or $3 or $5 or $10? The answer is no, they weren't. So a couple pennies here, 50 cents there, 20 cents here. It's not going to matter a ton when it's $1,000, $10,000, $50,000, $100,000 per XRP. It's going to be plenty of money. And people are going to be able to do some really good things with it. So I would say zoom out. I know people spend a lot of time looking at the chart, hoping it's going to fall back to 50 cents or something. Those times are gone. I'm sorry to say. If you were here for the past 5 years, you had the opportunity of a lifetime. Those that have showed up here recently still have the opportunity of a lifetime. And penny pinching and potentially missing out on the upside, if you're one day late, you're still going to miss it. I don't know when this is going to happen. I have a strong feeling that we are not far from it based on everything that I'm seeing in the market right now. So, you do you, buy when you want to. I'm going to continue to dollar cost average on a daily basis and just make sure I'm making the most of what I got. All right. I said two more, but we still got a little bit more time, so I'm going to hang out till 11 p.m. Central Standard Time. We got Truck and Magic. He says, Jake, you rock. Thank you for the kind words, man. He said, Mastermind Social here. Small bag, less than 10K. Don't tell people how much you got, my man. Exchanges equal bad. But I can store cash in RLUSD to buy future XRP dips. Any negatives doing that? If you trust Ripple, you're good. I trust Ripple. I think they are for sure, the premium people in the marketplace right now for a stablecoin. I think they're probably the best one out there if you're going to hold it somewhere. I don't. Exchanges aren't bad. Okay, public restrooms aren't bad. They are a necessity. I don't know if you've ever been on a long drive and had to pull over and needed to use the restroom, or your wife, I guarantee your wife has, inevitably, or my child. My child also frequently needs to use the restroom. Um, I think it's just people in general. I'm probably overemphasizing that. Anyway, you need that public restroom, right? When you need it, you need it. You just don't spend a whole lot of time in there, so it's not bad. I don't like to look at things as binary, like good or bad. How good is it? How bad is it? Right? I think public restrooms are right in the middle. I think that they're Bucky's public restroom is awesome. I love Bucky's. Um, anyway, I'm on a tangent here. Um, yeah, you definitely could, but exchanges still could go down. You might not be able to have the opportunity to be able to buy the XRP when you're looking to buy it and execute that. Again, 1010 happened and we saw that liquidation. A lot of people were not able to get on the exchange. There was too much volume. They weren't able to execute a trade. Again, if you have an OTC desk, good to go. If you got a broker, good to go. If you're with DWP, good to go. So that would be where I would be holding it. And you would need to hold it on an exchange if you wanted to participate on an OTC desk. You would have to hold it on whatever the exchange was for them to be able to make the trade. And ROUSD would be fine for that. But I don't know why you wouldn't just hold it on in dollars. You're not getting a yield on the ROUSD. Maybe I'm missing something there, but I would both are probably fine. I probably need to check this real quick and make sure I didn't miss any big super chats. So I'm going to go over here and do that. Shout out to Living Legacy. He always does a good job trying to take care of me. Yep, I got a couple of them here, so I don't want to miss these. We got Rhett Honeycutt. Thank you so much for the super chat. They say appreciate all your advice and big kahunas, cojones to stand out in the crowd. Regarding the insurance that covers up to 100 million, what are we supposed to do when we hold past that point and our XRP is valued over 100 million? We have species insurance that we're able to write alongside our carrier if you want additional insurance on the accounts. So as soon as you're over 100 million, we would love to have that conversation. We got Seymour 117871. They say legend. Tinfoil hat time. I mean, it's a $50 super chat, so I'm going to give it to you, man. Have you seen or heard of Brandon Briggs, a prophetic dream coined the Holly Berry Vision from YouTube channel Last Days 24/7? Title of video: My Dream About the Iraqi Dinar, a prophetic call to pray, day 57. It's not one that I'm familiar with. But there are oracles and people out there that I think can see things that other people can't. I am not a prophet. I am not an oracle. I'm just a regular dude that looked at a bunch of stuff and was able to put some stuff together and share that with people. But there are absolutely people out there that can see things that are given to them by God or whatever religion you have, the universe. And so I don't play with that. That's not my thing, but um, maybe there's something here to this one, and I do think that there is going to be a revaluation that takes place. I just don't. I don't know if there's going to be a new issued currency, that there's a conversion rate from the old one. I think that that's much more likely, personally. So, thank you for the super chat. And again, I'm into a little bit of woo, but not all the woo woo. Mohammed again. I already read that one, so I think that's the 3 that he left me on here. Appreciate you on that. And then I gave my disclaimer. We'll take one more and then we'll wrap it up for tonight. We got Michael J. Thiessen. He says, "Evening legend. What's up, my dude? If my wife has a SEP IRA and she wanted to transfer money into the IRA, I have an XRP IRA. Can that be done with DWP, or does it have to be started somewhere else and then can be transferred to DWP?" We can do it. We can set those accounts up and be able to structure it that way if you need us to. just reach out to your advisor over there, and if you're already working with them, if you're not, then we can absolutely work with you to get that structured and set up the right way. Um, well, that went a little faster than I thought. Maybe we'll grab one more here, and then we'll wrap it up for tonight. Sorry about TikTok. Phone died. I was at the event. I don't have my charger um, immediately available. It's in the other room. I should have went and got it. Um, I'll hear about that later. Always do. Um, Paul Adkins. So this is a great one to end on here. Paul Adkins has announced XRP. Could Paul Atkins getting tired? Could Paul Adkins be announcing XRP to a tier one asset tomorrow as he rings the bell and gives a speech? No. Paul is part of the SEC, or the Securities and Exchange Commission. He's not part of the BIS, which is the Bank of International Settlements, who designates tier one asset status. Um, if you want some tinfoil hat, though, we'll take it there. Um, you guys, I'm sure, you may be new here, and if you're not, if you are new here, then you probably haven't seen this. But there are like riddles that go along with XRP. There's Reddit posts, there's multiple Twitter accounts, there's all kinds of stuff. I take all of it with a grain of salt. But one that I find interesting is Bearable Guy's post from 2023 at Christmas. He posted a poker table, and at the poker table, there was off to the side a man's hand pulling a rope that's ringing a bell that says Merry Christmas on it at the top. Could that be the SEC chairman ringing the stock market bell tomorrow, right before Christmas? I don't know. Sure is interesting, though. So excited to see what Paul has to say. Excited to have a favorable SEC chair in place that advocates for digital assets and not against them. And very excited for the last 30 days of the year here in 2025. I hope you've prepared well, you're locked in, and you're ready to go. And I'm excited for you guys to have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas this year at the end of 2025. With that, I am going to wrap it. Again, if you want to join the mastermind, we would love to have you. We're going to lock it down at a $10 XRP, which I don't think is going to be that far in the future. So if you want to check that out, go to beyondbroke.com. Use the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number one, and then MO like Mary Oscar each of the first month for $2 there in social and Carbon One. And I think we may be doing away with that in the very near future. In addition to that, if you need the LLC and you want to work with us on that, again, you don't have to. You can work with an attorney in Wyoming to be able to structure this the right way. Just make sure they're doing, a single member, unless you have a state that's, a qualified joint venture, or you need to do a family limited partnership to be able to mitigate the tax implications when you're putting the assets in there. But we can do it. Make sure that everything's done the right way for you for $2,000 if you use the code 50 off 50 OFFDAGLLC. That's 50 OFFDAGLLC at digitalfamilyoffice.io. And then last but not least, if you need a financial advisor to help you make decisions for your investments in crypto, we would love to work with you. If you have at least 50,000 XRP and those are held in an LLC, trust, or IRA, or spread across all three of those. It doesn't matter as long as the total is at least 50,000 XRP or 500,000 in total portfolio value. You can work with Digital Wealth Partners. All you got to do is go to digitalwealthpartners.net and use the contact us form there, fill that out, and we would have an advisor or a support staff reach out. So with that, I'm going to wrap. Hope you guys have a wonderful night, a wonderful week. Thank you for joining me on a Monday to come hang out here. We'll be back Wednesday night. And until then, God bless, and we'll see you on the next one.